Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to come on here and talk about the books that I gave 5 stars this year. I really can't believe the year's over. Like, whenever I think about it, it's going to be 2025 next week. Oh my gosh. No, it's literally next week. I actually read a lot of 5 stars this year. I'm gonna go ahead and say this in the beginning. I'm gonna do a little life update at the end of this video because I haven't been on here in a second. I want to give you guys kind of an update as to why. For the people who are subscribed to me, I know that not everybody cares and some people just clicked on this video to see my books. And that's totally fine. But if you do want a little bit of an update, I'm going to talk about that at the end. So definitely stick around if you want an update. I have like a huge stack of books right here. Probably the best thing to do is just go in chronological order. So I'm gonna do that. 1 second. Okay, I feel like this first one is going to be controversial because not everybody loved it as much as I did, but I actually picked up Ruthless Vows, which is the second book in the Letters of Enchantment duology. The real ones on here know that I got a tattoo of Divine Rivals. I was obsessed with Divine Rivals, so I very much could have read this book through the lens of being obsessed with the first one and have just gotten a tattoo of the first one. So I'm probably in my head I was thinking, no, I need to love this one. But I do feel like I loved this like just as much or very, very close to as much as I loved the first one. I don't know. I just felt like I really wanted to see more magic. I wanted to see more of the world and the gods and like kind of get a conclusion on Iris and Roman. And I feel like I got all of that in this book. I know that a lot of people were disappointed by this, but to me it was like everything that I wanted it to be. And one thing that I also really love about Rebecca Ross, even though it literally shatters my heart, is that she's not afraid to sacrifice characters or do things in her books that like probably as an author are really hard in order to get that final heartbreaking beautiful conclusion. And so I just really loved Ruthless Vows. I had a good time with it. This was my first read of 2024, and honestly like the month of January was absolutely insane. So I'm going to keep going. All of the next like 3 are from January. I then went on to read Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, and I've literally talked about this so much on my channel. This is like one of my favorite duologies of all time. I really just couldn't recommend this series more than I do. Dance of Thieves starts out following Kazi, who is a part of a Queen of the Continent's militia. She goes to investigate kind of like this people group who say that they're the first people of this continent. They don't really do things like the rest of the continent does, and so she's sent to go investigate and make sure that they're following protocols. But she runs into their king or padre, who just became king or padre because his dad just died. Him and his brothers are out in the streets. She runs into them. They kind of get off to a rough start, and so they go to talk privately on a back alley, and they end up getting kidnapped and taken by traffickers. They escape, but they're still chained together. They have to figure out a way to get back to his kind of kingdom and her militia while chained together in the wilderness. The tension is so freaking good. The way I describe these books to people whenever I'm recommending them is that they really do, especially as somebody who loves Throne of Glass. Like, Throne of Glass is one of my favorite series. Not the plot, but more of like the vibe of it felt a lot like Throne of Glass to me, but like with way lower stakes. And all of like the plot kind of more happens in this book. This one is more character driven, and I really like the combination of both and how they're kind of separated in each book. So I adore this series. I couldn't recommend it more. Gave both of them 5 stars. I think I like the first one better, but I read the second one, I'm like 5 stars again. Like, it's literally so good. So I don't know, I loved it. I really would recommend it. And if you put this on your 2025 TBR, let me know, and once you read it, come back to this video and tell me how you like it. Then I begin my journey with you guys. My first video that I posted on here was in February of this year, and I did a read of Crescent City. It was my first time reading it, and so I did a little reading vlog. That's my first video on this channel. So Crescent City is another book that I gave 5 stars. This was honestly like a 6-star read for me, and this is the only book in the series that I gave like a 5-star to. And if you guys have never heard of Crescent City, it's written by Sarah J. Maas, who wrote A Court of Thorns and Roses and Throne of Glass, but this is her urban adult romantasy series. So I think that the reason why I liked this one better than all the rest, she has 2 other ones in the series, and the reason why I like this one best is because it felt the most unique from her other worlds to me. I think that it's really hard whenever you've already found your voice as an author to write something that's like truly unique, and anytime that an author does this, I'm like very impressed by that. I feel like you're gonna see a theme if you stick around on my channel to see that like I give extra points whenever somebody is unique, because in this world, in this day and age, it is really hard to come up with things that are very unique. I really thought that this world was unique in this book specifically. In the other two books, it started to kind of blend more into her previous series, and I didn't really love that. But in this book particularly, it was like if all of the fae and creatures and things that we see in like a bunch of our fantasy books were all in just like an urban setting together, like kind of like Zootopia. There's like a group of angels who are kind of like the police. I don't know. I can't describe this in a way that makes it sound as cool as it was whenever I was reading it. But as I was reading this, I was like, this is literally so unique. I loved the vibe that was going on in my head as I was reading this. I felt like this one also pulled me into the emotions of Bryce as a character. I felt really connected to her in this book particularly. I felt like she was so unique. I loved her personality. I felt like it was very distinctly different than Sarah J. Maas's other female main characters. So I loved this book. The ending had me absolutely sobbing on the floor. I think that what went wrong with the last two books in this series is that they started, again, like I said, to be more like Throne of Glass, more like ACOTAR. And I just really don't like that because I'm reading this to enjoy a separate story that's not the two other ones I've already read. So anyways, loved this one. Loved it so much. Would I recommend the whole series? I would say yes if you've already read Sarah J. Maas's other two books, but if you're looking to like get into them, I wouldn't start with this series. I would definitely start with ACOTAR if you're a romance fan, and Throne of Glass if you are a fantasy fan. So I hope that makes sense. But I did really love this one and I gave it 5 stars. There are only 2 contemporary romance books on this entire list, and the first one, oh my gosh, like I'm actually gonna cry thinking about this book, but it is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Oh my gosh, like this book actually was the most emotional I've ever been for a contemporary romance. I have never been this like hooked on a story whenever I'm reading a contemporary romance. This follows Macy and Elliot. They were childhood friends and lovers, and they run into each other 11 years after they break up in high school. Basically, we're going back and forth from the past to the present to figure out kind of like what happened, why they aren't together anymore, and if they can rekindle it, and kind of figuring out what happened. This book is literally like, again, I'm not really a contemporary romance fan, and so whenever I say that like this is like so insanely good, I mean it. I couldn't recommend it more. I was absolutely sobbing. And also, like, whenever I wasn't reading it, I feel like whenever I know a 5 star is going to be a 5 star, it's whenever I'm like somewhere else and I'm just thinking about the story. I'm just like, I'd be at like the grocery store and be like, oh, like I wonder what's gonna happen with them. I wonder what's gonna happen. This definitely is probably my favorite contemporary romance I've ever read, and that's a big statement, but I stand by it, guys. 2024 was the year of duologies. I definitely read more than just this. I don't know if I said this, but I've read 45 books this year, so there's definitely a lot of books that like were 4 stars or 4.5 or 4.75 that I could have put on this list. There's 11 on here, but I read so many good duologies. Duologies just in this year specifically became my favorite form of storytelling, and I know not everybody likes duologies, but I do, because I feel like 3 books is almost too much and 1 book is almost never enough whenever you're in a fantasy series. So the 2 book format is just like chef's kiss perfect. So my favorite duology of this year, my favorite series, maybe my favorite books, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This series is so near and dear to my heart. I read this in March, I believe. I did a reading vlog while I was reading it, so I will leave that link down below if you want to watch it. But oh my gosh, I think, again, like I said in Crescent City, I give points for uniqueness. If I feel like I'm reading a world that I haven't read before, I definitely give it extra points for that, because it's impressive to me when somebody can come up with things that I haven't read before. Not to say that I've read like everything, but I feel like I've been around on the book talk space for a while in booktube. I feel like it is a big task to write something that feels unique from other things that are out. So this series, the magic system is just really unique. This is the Shepherd King duology, and how the world works in this is that there are cards kind of similar to like a deck of cards, and they're called Providence cards, and if you are in possession of one, you hold the magic of that card. All magic comes with a price, so if you hold this card and use this card, there's probably going to be consequences if you use it for too long, etc. But all of these cards have like different abilities, and Elspeth, who is our main character, whenever she's young, touches a nightmare card. So now she has a nightmare living in her head, becoming more prevalent, talking to her, and so we're kind of just following her journey. There's also a mist that has come over this land and this kingdom. Her and new friends that she meets along the way are trying to find a way to break this curse, basically. It's so much more than that, but that's the best way that I can explain this plot. I gave One Dark Window 5 stars, and I gave Two Twisted Crowns literally like, I mean, basically 6 stars. And I think that this is gonna depend. Some people are gonna like One Dark Window better. Some people are gonna like Two Twisted Crowns better. I think my husband, he just read One Dark Window after, because I made him. I was like, you literally have to read this book. I think he would probably like One Dark Window better, even if he continues on to read Two Twisted Crowns. I feel like it's more romance heavy, and I really like the romance in the second book, so that's why I like this one better. Couldn't recommend these more. And if I was gonna pick a season to read them in, I'd say this all the time, but I would always pick fall, because it does have like, it's not scary or spooky, it just has that kind of like eerie undertone. So highly recommend this series, absolutely adore it. Getting into the summer, I only have one other contemporary romance on here, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Not everybody likes this book. Again, I feel like I have some hot takes on here, and the only other Emily Henry book that I think I probably would give 5 stars to, now looking back on it, is Beach Read. But I realized this year that I really like second chance romance, because Love in Other Words kind of falls in that category. Sorry if I'm a broken record, I feel like I say this all the time, but I feel like now at this point in my life, I've been married for 3 years, I've been with my husband for 5 total. Second chance romance is the only story or trope that kind of hits the same chords for me as being in a long-term relationship. And really it's just kind of choosing somebody and knowing them fully, and like knowing their faults and, you know, their experiences and everything, and still choosing to love them anyways. That's why I really liked this book, is I just felt like it was really emotional and impactful. It took place in Maine, and I really loved the setting. This also touches on friendship, and how a lot of times like your friendships change over time, and sometimes you aren't in the same place that you were whenever you were friends in college or friends in high school or whatever, and it just shows like, can you love somebody enough to like make it work with them, even if you don't have things in common anymore, you don't have situations in common. So I thought that that was really well done in this book too. I just loved the themes of this book, and just in Emily Henry fashion, I feel like she writes a romance, but it's never just about the romance, and so I absolutely loved this book. If Happy Place has no fans, I'm like, really, I just love it. So not for everyone, but if you like second chance, I feel like you would really like this book. Had to throw in Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I actually gave this 4.75, but I was like looking through my bookshelf, and I was like, I can't not include this book in this video, because I just loved this story so much. I say to everybody that if you want a book to like start your fall reading next year, and you just like want a cozy fantasy good time, this book is literally perfect. As I was reading this, it was like going into September, I was getting pumpkin spice lattes, I was getting pumpkins from Trader Joe's. I had like a whole day reading this book, and I think I also vlogged this. I think that was my last vlog that I did actually. But it is literally just the cutest book. I think that the only way that I can describe this is like, if you mixed Animal Crossing, stick with me, if you mix Animal Crossing with like a D&D theme, that would be this book. And it's just cozy. Like, I just had to throw it in here because like I need everybody that loves fantasy to read this book. Like, I don't care if you are like the highest high fantasy fan, you still need to read this book, and you're probably gonna love it. Babble by R.F. Kuang found me at a really interesting time. I live in an impacted area of Hurricane Helene, and it was like so, it was so much. It's hard to like properly articulate what it felt like to be in that situation and have my community affected, especially because I live in North Carolina, so it's not like I live somewhere where hurricanes happen a lot. Like, I literally live in the mountains, and it was just a weird time. Like, at first we didn't really know everything that was happening, and then we did, and it was just a whirlwind. I had anxiety like all the time. So I was reading Babble in the midst of all of that. I literally couldn't leave my parents' house. All the roads were flooded. We didn't have electricity, we didn't have Wi-Fi. Basically, all we had to do was read. We played Catan and we read books, and Babble was just the book that I was reading at that moment. And I actually feel like it was weirdly the perfect time to read Babble. And I say that because with Babble, you have to be so focused on the story, and you have to be really locked in. I didn't have anything else to do but read, and so I was really locked into the story, and I felt like I got the most out of it because I was so focused on it. And I was just like, I would spend sometimes like all day reading this book. And this book oftentimes gets put in the category of dark academia, and I was actually going to put this in a video, reading dark academia for a week, or like talking about dark academia, and I probably will at some point, but like I almost feel like it's an insult to this book to just be like kind of thrown into dark academia, because this is literally a masterpiece. It speaks a lot on colonialism, talking about, is there ever like a moral way to colonialize? Is there ever a moral way to translate and like use people's languages and talking about kind of like appropriation, cultural appropriation, and in a way that is like centered at the University of Oxford in like kind of like a magical realism setting. It's just like so, I can't even like fully properly put into words how like important this book is, and I really enjoyed this book. I got a lot from it. I just also loved R.F. Kuang's writing. It's absolutely insane, so detailed, so beautiful, and I'm definitely gonna read Poppy War because I've been wanting to read that anyways. I just haven't gotten around to it, but now after reading Babble, I feel a little bit more confident about reading one of her like fantasy series. Last but not least, I read Song of Achilles while I was in Greece with my family. I went on like a almost 2-week Europe trip with my family in October. We went to Greece, Italy, France, and Spain. I wanted to read Song of Achilles. I had a couple other books I was going to read while I was there, but we were just doing so much that I really didn't have time. Guys, let me paint a scene for you. I'm in Mykonos, sitting on the beach, reading the end of this book. And if you read this book, you're going to know what I mean. It was a lot, but in a good way. A lot of times I feel like I don't allow myself to read books that make me sad because I'm just like such a chronic like crier. I literally cry about everything. I am a Pisces, for anybody that was gonna ask that, but I do cry all the time already. And so a lot of times I'm scared of books like this because I'm like, why would I want to make myself sad? Why would I want to cry? But books like this are just like so insanely beautiful. It's childhood friends to lovers, basically. It's Patroclus and Achilles. It's just so good. And also like, it's a lot of great knowledge about Greek mythology. You learn so much from this book while also having your heart broken. And I honestly didn't know if I was gonna rate this 5 stars, but Madeline Miller's writing, it's just like, it's so simple, but it's so beautiful. I'm definitely gonna read Circe at some point, but I absolutely adore this book. I've thought about this a lot, and I feel like 2025 is gonna be more of a series year for me. I do have a few standalones. I do have a few like shorter series that I want to read, but most of my series are probably gonna be kind of big. It's probably gonna be a big series year for me. So I'm gonna make another video in a couple weeks talking about my 2025 TBR, so definitely subscribe and stick around for that video. So if you are sticking around to hear the update, I basically just wanted to kind of talk about why I've been gone for a while and like kind of where I want my channel to go from here. TikTok might be banned. TikTok literally might be banned, and I feel like TikTok is kind of like where I mostly make all my content, just because I feel like whenever I make book content, it's almost easier for me to like sit down and kind of like casually make a 5-second video or like a 5-minute video and just post it on TikTok. A lot of times it's just easier because I feel like recently I've just had so much going on with the hurricane. I had so many video ideas for fall. That honestly was probably the thing that discouraged me from YouTube the most, is because I literally had so many ideas for fall. I had so many books I was gonna read. I was literally gonna pop the content out, but because the hurricane happened and then it just kind of like threw everything off from there, I really have just been in this kind of rut of uninspiration. I just feel very uninspired. I, for a while, was just kind of like, it's easier to come up with short video ideas whenever it comes to long form ideas. Like I have them, but just it felt so daunting to like sit down and do them, even though now I'm doing it and I'm like, this is literally not hard. Like why did I like stop myself from doing it for so long? A lot of you guys may have found me from shorts that I post on here, because a lot of times I cross post. I put my TikToks onto YouTube shorts, but I've decided there's 2 different ways that people can go. Like if after TikTok, I feel like a lot of people are gonna flood to both YouTube and Instagram, and I have just chosen that I am just going to put my full everything into YouTube and just kind of like casually post on Bookstagram. I definitely do post on Bookstagram, but I don't like put my heart and soul into Bookstagram in the same way that I want and plan to do on YouTube. I just want to tell you guys this. It's just been like, I don't want to say it's been a bad year, because like there's so many good things that happened this year and there's so many like positives. I've loved so many parts of this year, but at the same time there were like a lot of hard things that just like kind of stuck with me, and it's hard to sit down and film whenever emotionally you're just like not in it. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I am fully committing to YouTube in 2025. I'm hoping to get into a rhythm of posting like every single week on a certain day that I haven't figured out what it's going to be yet, because the next couple videos are just going to kind of be whenever I can upload them, and they're probably going to be a couple that are posted within a week actually, because I have a lot of videos I want to film around the end of the year, Christmas time, wrap-ups and stuff. But eventually I do want to kind of get on more of a schedule. I absolutely love creating here, and not just long form, I also love short form. I'm really excited about the community feature that I've heard is coming to YouTube. Just want to let you guys know that. I know that people that are just like coming to this video are probably like don't want to sit and hear me say this in the beginning of the video, because probably like, oh, I don't really care. But I just wanted to let you guys know, for the people who are subscribed to me and who watch my channel, that I am fully coming back. It's just taken me a little bit. I just needed like a kickoff video, but now I feel a lot more ready to like just keep making content on here, and I'm actually really excited for the content coming next year. Okay, I hope you guys have an amazing Christmas. I hope you had an amazing Christmas. I guess this is not going to come out. There's no way I'm editing this. It's Christmas Eve right now. I don't see a world in which I edit this before Christmas, but I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. I hope that you have an amazing new year, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.